Hello and welcome to the Fierce Urgency of Now in Today's Schools podcast. I am Dr. Cynthia Mama J. Johnson, a voice of hope in education, and I will be your host. Thank you for joining us for another episode. I want you to know today we have the one, the only Larry Ferlazzo with us today. If you've done anything in the field of education, if you've read any articles or blogs, whether it's been in Education Week, whether it's been in the Washington Post or the New York Times, or you've read all of the books that he has written or that he has been the editor of, you know this name. Larry Ferlazzo is a champion for children and the field of education. So, Larry, welcome.
Well, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity, and for all the kind words. Uh, my head is pretty big to begin with, so I got to watch to make sure it doesn't get any bigger.
That's okay. That's okay. When I was putting all the information together and things, Larry, about you, I mean, learning more. I mean, I've been a follower and a fan. I'm just going to say that of your work and things for years. But I learned even more about all that you're doing, your upcoming books that you're going to talk about later on. That will come out at the beginning of March, and then like I said, all the work that you've done, all of over all these years has been phenomenal. But most importantly, they have helped us move forward. Now, I've given them just a little bit. I want you to take this time, take a couple minutes, and tell us about the work that you're doing and about who you are.
Well, I'm a teacher at Luther Burbank High School in Sacramento, and have been a teacher for this is my 23rd year.
That's
I
great.
I teach new immigrants, English and social studies, as well as teaching English proficient students. These days, I also teach in the International Baccalaureate program at our
Okay,
school.
great.
Uh, and other years, I've taught English intervention classes, and I've pretty much taught every English class and every social studies class. As you know, if you're around long enough, you teach all the different kinds of classes whenever is needed each year.
Right, right.
And prior to that, I was a community organizer for 19 years, working with religious congregations and labor unions to help improve communities.
That's great.
Um, and in the education field, as you've mentioned, I've written 13 books, or
Yes.
edited 13 books. And I write a teacher advice column for Education Week, and have a teacher resource sharing blog of my own. So that's and I'm a fervent but mediocre basketball and pickleball player as well.
That is wonderful. I did see something on LinkedIn that really gave me a great chuckle when you said since 2014, your basketball team has come in last. Is that true?
Yeah, every year,
Every
every
year,
year.
every year.
But we try.
But
We
you
try
try,
our best.
and you said you're not going to quit your day job.
No, no.
Well, that is great. Absolutely wonderful. I said before we officially started recording that I don't believe you sleep. I look at when you put in posts early in the morning. I get them around 5:45, 6 o'clock, and I'm thinking, oh, this is great, something to start the morning with. But then I realize you're on PT time, so that's 2 hours ahead. So I really don't know when you're sleeping, Larry. But I know, if I know nothing else about you, that you are doing the work not only to support educators, but you are continuously coming up with innovative ideas to help move children forward. That's what this is all about. The fierce urgency of now in today's schools is moving children forward. So, one of the things I always say is I want to be concise and I want to be precise in the work that we do. So, I want to jump into the questions. So, here's the first question: Larry, what brings you to the work and what keeps you doing the work every day?
Oh, as I mentioned, I was an organizer for 19 years, and um, as well, prior to that, both my parents are immigrants.
Okay.
And I think, particularly for my father, I got a sense of wanting to leave the world a better place than it was when I entered it. And
Love that.
uh, a lot of my work in organizing was in immigrant communities. While I was organizing, our real focus was on leadership development. And I was seeing people really transforming their lives and what they learned through organizing, through participating in public life for the first time. Learning about the idea of working with people who are different from themselves for a common goal,
Right.
learning that they really did have power to make positive change. And
Yes.
people were learning these things in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, well, wouldn't it be great if people began to learn these things younger, when they were kids? Excuse me.
That's good.
So that's when I decided to change careers and become a teacher. And that I was particularly interested because of my background in working with immigrant communities. And the timing was such 23 years ago that the last refugee camp in Thailand for the Hmong was
Mhm.
closing. And the Hmong are a community or a culture that was based in Laos during the Vietnam War, and they built what was called the Secret Army to
Okay.
support the U.S. United States in the Vietnam War. And the U.S. made a deal with the Hmong, said, well, if we lose, we will provide sanctuary to you in the United States. And most of the Hmong refugees came in near the end of the Vietnam War, but others stayed to continue to fight. And as I said, the last refugee camp closed 23 years ago in Thailand when the abbot of the Buddhist monastery where the refugees were living, where the camp was located, he died.
Mm.
So Sacramento, where I teach, was a center for Hmong resettlement.
Oh, wow.
And uh, so many Hmong came 23 years ago when that last refugee camp closed.
Wow.
So it was a great opportunity for me. I mean, it was a real gift. I mean, how often can a high school teacher say that they could teach students who had never been in school before? So it was an extraordinary experience my
Right.
first couple of years as a teacher for Hmong refugee students. And I continued to teach at the school. It's been a great school. It's under-resourced. Uh, but it's a great school, and I have taught many different classes since then, and always usually uh, one or two or even three classes for new immigrants for English and social studies. So the students are great.
Yeah.
It's very, the administrators have always, the local school administrators at our school have always been great. Our district
Wonderful.
leadership has often been pretty mediocre, but our local administrators have always done a good job of sheltering students and teachers from that mediocrity in the district office. So,
Wow.
um, so yeah, that's what I've been doing, and also having a lot of fun, and been offered a lot of opportunity to be creative and autonomy, and I love what I do.
Well, I first of all know and believe that you love what you do because it comes through in your writing. It comes through in resources that you have tried. I mean, you're not sharing things with people just because you've made them up or you found them someplace. You are sharing things with people. When you say a toolbox, You are taking literally that toolbox and you're putting it on that desk and you're opening it up and saying, come in. There are resources for you to use to reach many different levels of children, many different types of students. And that's one of the things that I've loved. Besides the fact that you gave us a history lesson just a few minutes ago, which was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I think about just the world that you live in Sacramento, and the experiences that you have, and that you've brought your own lived story, lived experience into the classroom. That is very, very powerful. I've written down one of the things I love when you said at the very beginning, when you started talking about your father. It was important to your father to make sure that you that he wanted to leave things better, leave the world better, and that you really adopted that same type of philosophy. And then you went on to talk about, you were teaching these things to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80-year old, people, and how powerful it would be if you would go back and do it at an earlier age. And if we would take that philosophy right there that you just said, and you said so many things, but if we would take that portion right there and go back and teach students younger about, this is how you can be successful, this is how you can master, this is how you can just be absolutely phenomenal in this world. I said this last week, so I'm going to say it again this week. That's what it means to be fully equipped. When we fully equip students, whether they are in kindergarten, whether they're in preschool, whether they're in third grade, whether they're in eighth grade, whether they're in 12th grade, if we give them the skills they need, they can change the world. So that's the excitement that
Agreed.
I heard. Yes.
Agreed.
Yes, yes, yes. So thank you so much for that just absolutely phenomenal response. I'm going to take it straight into the second, because I know this is going to get better as we keep going.
Mhm.
The second question centers around the title of the podcast. So from your lens, the lens that you work from every single day, the lens that you write for, when you write your articles or your blogs, what is the fierce urgency of now in today's schools?
Well, 4 days ago, I would have given you a very different answer.
Okay.
So 4 days ago, I would have said uh, that two things are the fierce urgency of now. One is ensuring that a mindset in the schools looks through students through the lens of assets instead of deficits.
Woo, that's good. That's good. Oh, wait a minute. Stop
Um,
right there. That gets a tambourine shake. Come on now. Don't get me fired up, Larry. Come on now.
and then the second thing I would have said is the importance of um, instead of thinking in terms of how we motivate students, we've got to think about how to create the conditions where students can motivate themselves.
Okay. Okay.
Because you can motivate someone for a very short period of time,
Right.
but over the long term, people have to figure out and be invested in how they can motivate themselves.
So that was 4 days ago.
That's 4 days ago.
Tell me now. Keep it real. Come on. Keep it real.
Okay.
Talk to me now.
Since that time, uh, we have a new president who, on his first day in office, uh, clearly targeted refugees, asylum seekers, and transgender individuals, all of whom are students in our schools. I mean, that's just
Right.
uh,
I hear you.
what they're there. They're there. And they and their families are clearly under attack and certainly feel under attack. And then, so 4 days ago, or you became president. 2 days ago, for example, they eliminated the prohibition of immigration officers being able to come into schools. Um, I mean, the reality is, I think it's unlikely that they will actually enter schools, but I think it's very, very possible, and they have in the past during the first Trump administration, picked up parents when they were dropping off or picking up their students from the parking lots or from the area. And certainly what we're going to be experiencing are our students going home after school and finding that their parents may very well have been deported.
Right. And
So,
Larry, go ahead.
so in terms of the fierce urgency of now, uh, I don't think it gets much more fierce now, urgency of
Right.
now than students. I mean, just on, I mean, on the human level, all that stuff is awful. Plenty
Right.
of research has also shown that children who are fearful of the deportation of a family member has a dramatically negative impact on their mental health and their academic achievement.
Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and certainly we're dealing with um, suicide rates
Right.
of gay, lesbian, and transgender students is increasing, and and mental health. I mean, I just wrote today a piece in Education Week about 10 actions that teachers can take now that Donald Trump is president, and pointed out that the Center for Disease Control's found identified 850,000 high school students who were either identified as transgender or were questioning.
Hmm.
That's a lot of students.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, there are 15 million high school students around, and I mean, obviously, it's still a very small minority, but it's a lot of students.
Right.
And there are over 4 million students who have undocumented family members
Hmm.
who are attending. So, I mean, there's just
There's
there
a
are
lot of things.
a lot of things. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, most school districts, including our own, including our own, are slow to develop responses to these crises. And as is typical, teachers have to step up on their own. I mean, many
So
of
let
us
me.
had to do that during COVID without
Right.
a whole lot of district support,
Right.
and many of us are having to do that
Right now. Right
right
now.
now,
So
right?
let me jump in just for a second. Larry, you've said so absolutely much, and I'm not going to try to go back and recapture because I saw when you were speaking that you were speaking from your heart and you were speaking your truth. So I honor and I respect that. That is our platform that we have because there's a fierce urgency right now. One of the things that I want to say, and I've said this my entire educational career is there are so many things that always come up. There are always so many things that go on around us. There are things that go on before us. I said that last week. My goal and my mission is to make sure I keep my eyes moving forward. First of all, I keep my eyes open and I keep myself moving forward by focusing on the students, by focusing on the families and keeping them close. So that is what is so absolutely important. I know in the work that you do every single day, Larry, that you're going to continue to do those things because I know that you already do those things because I don't believe that the way that you put things together that those things could be false. Um, if you truly were not doing those. So one of the things that I want to say to you today is don't give up hope. And as we work in schools, as we go into schools, as we look at that fierce urgency, let's determine where we want to begin. and let's determine how we continue to move forward. For the sake of time, because I know we could stop the clock right now and keep talking about this forever. So this is what I want to know, and and to really think about this, I want to know, what are you willing to disrupt, interrupt, or dismantle to ensure that students have access and opportunities to thrive?
Yeah.
Disrupt, interrupt, or dismantle to have access and opportunities to thrive.
Well, it's a great question. And I mean, I think what we teachers, um, what many of us are, feel called to do
I love that.
is, we want to um, nurture our students and protect them.
Yeah.
And society and the public really, I mean, the expectation, of course, is that we will protect our students from shooters, gun violence, right? Put our lives on the line. I think, it's possible that we need to, uh, put our, I don't know if we have to put our lives on the line, but we've got to step up if our families and our students are at risk from being uh, mistreated and being deported. I mean, our community is made up of many immigrants, and uh, many of our family members from the past. We were all, many of us are ancestors of immigrants. Some who were forcefully, were pushed here, and others who voluntarily came here. Um, and I think all of us, all teachers, always have to think about, okay, what are we going to do if a shooter comes in our sight?
Right.
What are we going to do if the ICE tries to come in to take our students or their family members? Uh, and I think those are questions that all of us, all educators, have to carefully consider.
You're
And
exactly right there,
hopefully we
Larry.
will make the right. We will. I mean, we all, in theory, theoretically, know what we're going to do, but when push comes to shove, we'll have to see.
Right. Right. So to what you've said there, and I'm going to come back and I've captured a few notes there. Is, are you willing to? I mean, what are you willing? Are you disrupting? Are you interrupting? Are you dismantling?
Right. Well, I think disrupting
Okay. That's what I
the
thought.
yeah, I think trying to disrupt the mindset that our immigrant students or their families are that there's something wrong with them,
Yeah.
when in fact they enrich our communities and they enrich our lives,
Yes.
uh, and they just happen to not be white.
Right.
Uh,
I hear what you're
so,
saying.
you know,
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you have said today is, I love that you started this question with nurturing, that
mhm.
teachers want to nurture and hold close. I was given that nickname of Mama J because I've held my students close, whether they are 4 or 5 years younger than me right now, or whether my last group that are 19 and 20 and things. So, holding them too close and then protecting them. I mean, those are words that I love that you said, and I immediately wrote those down because it was important to me for my students to know that regardless of what was happening in the world, that they were loved.
Mhm.
And love wasn't just words. It was shown through action that I am going to keep you safe, that I am going to ensure that you know what to do, whether we have an emergency or whether, and also safety by making sure that you're fully equipped to go out into the world. Now, did I do that perfectly every single time as an administrator, as a teacher, as an executive director to oversee all schools? No. Did I do that perfectly every time? I did not. But I made every effort to be able to keep students and families close. That is so absolutely powerful. And, one of the things I think that, that I want to say today is that there are many things that are happening, but I hang on to hope. Now, I know people think, well, she's an optimist. You see it back there behind me. I am an optimist. And I've
That's
had so
good.
many, it's good. That's good. I've had people say to me, well, hope is not a strategy. You know what? Guess what? You are exactly right. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is an anchor. I believe that when you have an anchor that is hope, regardless of what storm comes through, what is put before us, what we have to respond to, what we have to create, we can weather the storm. That's the purpose of an anchor in a boat,
Yeah,
in a
and
ship.
it also can function as a compass,
Come
right?
on, there
Yeah.
you go. Right there to provide that direction. So that's what I hold on to. And I can't, Larry, um, change how people believe. I can't change their actions, but I am responsible for Cynthia Johnson. And that's what I want to focus on. So I want to take you to another segment. And I want you just to take a couple minutes. Larry, tell people how they can get in contact with you, where they can get your resources. I'm going to put in the body of the message when I attach the video, all of your different links, because people will find more information that will blow their mind. So, but tell us where they can find information and things and get in contact with you.
Sure. Well, just typing my name into a search bar will lead you to either
Pictures.
my websites of the day blog or my Education Week classroom Q&A blog.
Yes.
So those two things, and then also just typing my name into Amazon will lead you to my authors page there. So, and
Excellent.
I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky, and as you mentioned, LinkedIn. So it's fairly easy to get a hold of me.
That is excellent. Excellent. I know tonight that we could really talk forever about just all the things that you've shared. And I appreciate what you've shared with people, and you've kept it real. You're speaking from a practitioner's heart tonight, and I think that is very important. When putting the idea and the vision and mission together for this podcast, it was important that people had the platform to be able to come in and talk about what was the fierce urgency for them. I could write about it. I could think, well, this is probably what it is, but it may not be those things. When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Wrote those words, um, that line from the I Have a Dream speech, and he talked about that fierce urgency of now, and he talked about now is the time. So I'm going to say that to whoever listens to this message and to this conversation today, is that now is the time. Now is the time for us to come together and to put everything that we have into helping our students become and remain successful. It is important that we mobilize, that we strategize in a peaceful, nonviolent way to help our families become their absolute best. But most important, for me, will always be the children. I'm not pushing aside the teachers at all,
Oh,
but I'm
yeah.
just saying we have to take care of our children. Our children need us now more than ever before.
Agreed.
Yes, yes. They need us and they're watching us. They're watching to see what we're going to do. We're watching to see what we're going to say. They want to know, what kind of plans are you making? What type of things are you doing to support us? That is important to children. It doesn't matter to me how dark things become. I believe that there is light. And where there is light, you can be the light. So, whoever's listening today, I hope you are encouraged. And I encourage you to be the light for all the world to see. Now, Larry, you may not know me like this, but this is how Mama J ends her podcast. I don't care where you go, take the light. I don't care if the lights are off, you bring the light in. I don't care if it becomes so dim that you cannot see. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Larry, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you again for the invitation. And I hope, you have been a contributor to Ed Week in the past. I hope you'll
Yes.
be a contributor again in the future.
Cheers. Send me the questions.
I will.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care, Cynthia. Thank you very much.